Prologue. That day was special. Special in the face of what was to be, of what could be, my destiny and yours, through resonance and reality. Nearing my first objective, I slid open the grating of the claustrophobic vent without a sound. Finally, after hours of crawling, I was at my destination. With finesse, I slipped, like the snake that I am, from ceiling to floor in complete silence in my blackened, leathery suit. There she was in all her glory. My target, naked and unaware of my presence, was staring at her mirror, with her back turned to me. Her celestial skin was like pure alabaster, and her long, ghost-white hair and bulbous head obscured her large, violet glowing eyes from my sleek entrance into her protected abode. And yet, even at this distance, I could smell and taste her exquisite, delicate anatomy. Unable to control my primal urge, my heart fluttered, and my mouth pooled with saliva. To one side, leaning against her ornate, white gold desk, was her mystical silvery stave, a weapon of terrible alien potential. The metallic swan statuette atop the shaft of this glorious artifact was said to be the source of all her power over the earth. Preparing myself for the kill, I slid my black blade, a relic her species adored, from my concealed alloyed sheath. In that instant, the marrow in my body began to shift in the confines of my tactical gear, and my scales transformed, giving way to human skin. Still silent, I could feel my body loosen during the shapeshift. My musculature changed, allowing for greater speed in my sleeker human form. I was gripped by tunnel vision, barely taking note of anything trivial in her chamber. My serpentine eyes were focused on the area of her nape. Adjusting the hilt of my dark sword in my clenched hand, I watched as the last of the creators, of my combined species, waved and pampered her hair with a golden brush. I silently stepped 3 meters toward my target. She began to sing, a soft melody akin to a nursery rhyme. Ellen Shana du Killer Shuin. I took 4 more steps. Alina can Shana Doom. I took 2 more. Suddenly, she stopped humming. I halted, my right leg bent at the knee. I was so focused that I had forgotten about her brushing. I stared at her hands, which had stalled and were no longer so frivolously busy. My paraspinal muscles tightened, and I realized my mistake. Neither movement in the mirror on her white gold desk, nor any noise of my own making, alerted her to my presence. She had caught my reflection slithering over her pristine swan. I pounced, lunging through the air with my prepared bend at the knee fueling my thrust with full energy. She turned, just out of reach of her precious staff, and before she could utter a damning mystical word to protect herself, my special blade pierced one of her beating, godlike hearts. "You," she gurgled, glaring into my slanted pupils with her swirling, galactic vision. "You will control us no longer," I hissed, plunging my sword deeper and forcing her shocked, struggling form onto the polished, marble-tiled flooring with a resonating thud. "No, no, no," she sputtered between my repeated, exhilarating stabs, the glow steadily waning in her eyes. "Without me, you will cease to be." "No," I roared, gripping her supple, thin throat with my free hand. "We will live, and we will rule this world, our world, without you." The songstress could only smile at me, as if pitying my justification, and then whispered in my ear, "You, above all, should not believe lies." "Enough of this," I screamed in her face. "You have done nothing but lie to all of us, forcing us into slavery with your warped chanting. From this day forth we are unafraid of mortal gods, such as you." "You may understand," she wheezed, pointing weakly with her left hand at the rod of power leaning against her desk. I shall return." It was then the bloody euphoria of my reptilian nature consumed me. I needed to taste my victim's blood, to feel it racing down my throat, to feel it inside me, to have her stay with me, so I could forever remember how this special kill made me feel. Blood-frenzied, I bit down while she lay splayed, puncturing her supple neck with my fangs. My literal god was absolutely delicious. I filled my cheeks to bursting point and swallowed her luscious, tasty essence with ecstasy. My pupils widened at the thrill. I continued to consume her pink blood a dozen more times, to fill my engorging stomach, each gulp more satisfying than the last. I then lost count. Releasing my dark blade, I gripped her jaw and pried it open. Withdrawing slowly from her raw jugular, I tenderly kissed and licked her parted, celestial lips with my forked tongue in arousal, then took the plunge, with affection, down her luxurious, moist orifice with force. My famous kiss of death. Staring my victim in the eyes, with my tongue slithering further down her throat, I watched as her beautiful violet glow disappeared with her defiant moans. Writhing against her body, I released my lips and withdrew my tongue with a last lick. I gasped and caught my breath. My hands, still gripping her mouth and throat, loosened, only to be replaced by the sensation of clammy sweat gracing my palms. Slowly I let go and rose above her cadaver. I stared coldly at her frozen, horrified expression while I removed my leather gloves. I smiled and released a moan of pleasure, proudly rubbing my extremely swollen, satisfied belly with both hands. Glancing to my right, I took note of the eerie strobe lighting above my head, spilling its illumination over the swan staff, my second objective. I stepped through her vivid pink blood without care and reached out for the pristine relic, salvation incarnate. Before touching the sacred stave, I paused, and my hand shook violently. I glared at my youthful skin and red fingernails, wondering why I was suddenly so afraid to grasp her weapon. Her voice, I shall return. I hesitated. I could almost hear her speaking to me like a phantom in my mind, recalling those chilling, prescient words. Just inches from the terrible weapon of sound and dreams, I remembered my orders. Cursing her twisted spirit with a thought, I finally clasped the staff with my slender fingers by its cold, alloyed shaft. The dormant metallic swan awakened in an instant, outstretching its large, dazzling wings and screeching before my widened eyes. I wished for death. My mind became no longer my own. In a torrent, I was swept away, my thoughts dissolving in visions of the past, present, and future. Every echo of existence resonated throughout space and time, chiming repeatedly in my mind and soul. Guilt racked my feeble senses absorbed by glowing colors of light, streaming through my shallow existence. I saw everything, what is, what could be, and what is to come, with every melody and choice. I could not scream. I was enthralled, trapped in the shackles of what I had once considered dreams. All I could do was stare in awe at what I saw, the glory of existence, ringing like millions of synchronized bell towers in the light of creation. And beyond the veil of darkness in our starlit reality, beyond even dreams and creation, was the final verse. Then, in the ever-changing scope of distance of this rippling sound, there was the bleak, inevitable death of all that could and would happen. She, the songstress, had known I was coming. She foresaw her potential fate. Now I knew, after all I had seen in the glory of her song and illumination, deliberately or not, that she had passed to me her cursed torch, a torch of promising light of what could be. I crumpled to the floor in the presence of this resonating chorus, which I could not fully comprehend. I was shaking, spraying foam and her precious pink blood over my chin. In my mentally besieged prison, I was unable to release my tight grasp of the stave. It was eternity, then icy darkness. I wish that had been the end. I found myself awakening in the deaf silence of that falsely lighted chamber, lying in my victim's blood. I must have been unconscious for hours, yet the blood was still unnaturally wet and warm. I tried to move my legs, but only my hands and arms had any sense of regaining locomotion, and my neck was stiff. Disorientated, in my complete synaptic shock, and chilled to the core, I tried to forget what I had seen and experienced. It was then I realized that her blood was not digesting in my swollen belly, giving me a dull ache. It could not be broken down, just like the flesh of her species. Regardless, she belonged to me now, and I welcomed the bloated sloshing from within. The rumors were true all along. Her blood was the source of her immortality. Finally, I understood my grand error, and her victory in death. I had experienced the visions because I had drained her. Her blood acted as a catalyst when I inevitably touched her weapon of sound and dreams. Now she pooled within me, her essence so addictive that the mere thought of regurgitating her exquisite fluid sickened me. The staff was nearby, lying on the once pristine, bloody white tiles, with its swan statuette tilted, staring at me, as if welcoming me into the passage of endless times. Trying my hardest, I crawled through her sweet hemoglobin, slipping and sliding through my grief and regret, yet unable to stop myself from obsessively lapping more of her warm plasma into my mouth. Finally, on the verge of tears, I reached the sealed windows of her chamber. Extending my arm and fingers as far as they would go, I activated the digital security panel to open the armored military shutters. In that moment, I felt the first tremors ripple throughout the skyscraper's structure. From my prone position, I desperately clung to the window ledge with both hands, trying to work my legs in an attempt to raise my body so I could see the outside world. As I willed it to happen instead, I watched as one of my hands shifted from skin to scales. I had no control. It was as if I was a newborn mammal, trying to learn how to utilize my natural functions. I could feel my eyes shifting in and out of focus, and as my glare finally met with my reflection in the cityscape in the distance, I stared at my slanted pupils. My skin was even more youthful, and my lush, long, once blonde hair was now nothing more than a soaked sponge of pink blood. My eyes dilated, an icy chill surged down my spine, and I recalled a memory, now familiar to me through the curse of my visions, of a young woman, her hair a blazing orange. But then, as I focused beyond the precipice of that fateful chamber, I saw the smoking trails of death streak across our blue hemisphere. Beyond the towers of grey stone, the first of many radioactive clouds reached for the ozone layer, bright and brilliant as the life-giving sun, beaming warmth on my elegant face. Shocked, I fell to my knees. The explosive blast wave met the windows, shattering them into shards that cleared my scalp. I could only weep and tremble, wishing for an alternate reality that was not meant to be. My vision was faint. I crawled to the swan staff, grimacing, trying to force my legs to move. Finally, my left leg and then my right obeyed me. Pushing myself with faster momentum, I slid my way over the sparkling glass dust and recoiled from touching it. I worried, should it repeat the visions? Then, feeling a shockwave reverberate throughout the tower, I could hesitate no longer. Reaching, I clasped the swan staff by the shaft and screamed. Nothing. Crying, my face creasing, I held the staff tightly against my chest and rolled on my back. I began hyperventilating in miserable silence. I knew what needed to be done in my highest hopes to atone for all I had wrought, a holocaust. The dawn of the Dark Age had broken.